Welcome in, everyone, to the Week 2 edition of the Football Friday podcast. Matt Catrillo, Alex Kozora, Tyler DiGiacomo here with you this week. No Ian Hunter as of right now. Hopefully we'll get him in here at some point later on the show, tied up with a couple of things. If not, we'll hear from him next week. Tyler, good to have you back after a week hiatus. How are you?
I'm doing good. Should be nice. Yeah, busy with work last week, but, these nighttime ones worked out, so nighttime shows. Nice to be back.
Alex, how are you?
Good. Steelers got the win. Wasn't pretty, but I'll take a win any way I can get it.
Same for the Eagles, and we'll definitely get into that in just 1 second. Guys, we have an action-packed show here today. I know sometimes we have a little bit of trouble getting guests on because of the way we record this each and every week, but this week we don't have not one, but 2 guests this week, and we're going to start right off the bat with a man who we've had on the show before, and he is the one and only Russell Baxter. You can follow him on Twitter at Bax Football Guru. You see him all over the place for the best NFL coverage, ProFootballGuru.com, NFL Spin Zone, Fansided, and he is, of course, my colleague over at Pro Football Spot, the lead writer for the Washington Redskins. Russell, great to have you back on the show.
Good to see you guys, and just for the record, I didn't win, but I am pretty.
There we go. Well, Russell, it's great to have you back, and of course, I know I've given you a couple shout-outs already, but ever since I made the move back from the Redskins site to the Eagles site, again, I definitely want to thank you for first bringing me into the Pro Football Spot family. It's been a lot of fun, and I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, you get to talk and write about football. Don't pull a hammy. We're pretty fortunate about what we get to do.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's been great. I've been really enjoying working with everybody, so it's great to be a part of the PFS crew. And Russell, let's start with the matchup of our 2 teams that we cover, the Eagles and the Redskins. Wasn't a pretty game for both teams by any means, but then the Eagles later on in the game, they make a couple of big plays defensively, and they were able to escape with the win in Washington. They break the 5-game losing streak against the Redskins, and when you look at offensively for the Redskins, they struggled a lot in the preseason. Not only did they have trouble scoring points, but they had trouble scoring or getting first downs, and they continued those struggles into the game against the Eagles. And one of the more important things that I think you take away from that is the chemistry between Kirk Cousins and Terrell Pryor. Not quite there yet. Offensive line had a tough time containing the Eagles' pass rush. So how concerning is this offense right now for the Redskins after Week 1?
Well, other teams where we saw their offensive line struggles because of massive personnel changes. And at least in my opinion, that is the area of a football team that is affected most now by the rules of training camp, which you're allowed to only put on the pads once a day. Offensive lines are built on continuity and physicality. Okay, you don't get to practice a lot, and you don't get to hit people a lot. And that's why I kind of look at, the first 4 games of the regular season now are almost like the preseason, Matt. Preseason is like training camp. It's like backwards, the way teams are constructed now. In the case of the Washington Redskins offensive line, which is one of the more underrated offensive lines, I think they just got outplayed by the Philadelphia Eagles, who did yeoman's work in the offseason on their defensive line and their defense in general. They took big steps up under Jim Schwartz. I think they took other big steps. The thing that struck me about the Eagles on Sunday was an air of confidence that we saw. Last year, they got off to the 3-0 start, and before you knew it, they went into the slump. This year, Carson Wentz had a full training camp. It was a different sense of preparation for them, and I know they were bringing in corners like I go through potato chips. Still, they settled things down, and I just like the way they looked combined on the both sides of the football on Sunday. Washington, they were up. Washington made a little run. They stifled them and so on, made the big play near the end of the game with the sack, and Fletcher Cox returned in the fumble return to seal the deal. It's a nice way to start off the season, a road divisional win. I don't care if you win it by 1 or you win it by 20. That's a big deal, and we saw quite a few of those in Week 1. Pittsburgh at Cleveland, Baltimore at Cincinnati, Jacksonville at Houston. It's important to hold serve in the division if you're going to win the division. So some teams took it on the chin at home against the divisional foe. That's the early hole to climb out of for those teams.
Yeah, no question about that for the Redskins and Russell. And for the Eagles side of things, I think you definitely saw that confidence, especially in Carson Wentz and some of the poise he had on some of those big plays that he had. The opening touchdown, plus that third down throw to Zach Ertz. And the defense, and you definitely saw that swagger of the front four there for the Eagles and the way they were able to dominate the line of scrimmage most of that. I think you're definitely right on there, and it's a great point. I love the comparison.
How many times, Matt, do you hear about particular players, seeing them in camp and seeing them in preseason, and then all of a sudden the season comes around and you're like, well, what was everybody talking about? What happened here? There were two guys when it came to the Eagles, when it came to camp in the preseason. One was Carson Wentz and one was Jalen Mills, and both delivered big time on Sunday.
Right, and Jalen Mills now is going to be really key, and actually just posted this on Pro Football Spot today. He's going to have to carry the load now for the Eagles now with the injury to Ronald Darby. He's going to be out 46 weeks, and I thought he made some big steps, but I think he still has a lot of room to grow, but I think he definitely took a big step forward with some of the big plays that he made, like the interception that helped the Eagles close out things when the Redskins were driving for the go-ahead score, and then, of course, the big pass breakup one-on-one on Terrell Pryor in the end zone. Definitely huge there. And so as the Eagles get ready for the Kansas City Chiefs this week, Russell, of course, started off the year with a bang by beating up the New England Patriots in their house with all the Super Bowl celebrations and everything like that. How much of a chance do you give the Eagles to win this football game in Kansas City, considering the issues they have at cornerback and how good Kansas City looked last week facing Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, Alex Smith looked fantastic. Of course, the Eagles' offensive line facing that pass rush for Kansas City. Arrowhead Stadium's a tough place to play. It's the Chiefs' home opener. What kind of chance do you give the Eagles this week?
Well, listen, I think the win last week on the road was a big confidence builder for them, okay? Obviously Kansas City has a little extra time to get ready for this game. I will say what impressed me most about Kansas City last week, and it's easy when you have 537 yards and 42 points and 6 offensive touchdowns and 3 touchdown drives, and everybody likes to harken back to that New England game from 3 years ago on Monday night that, rejuvenated New England after that. New England didn't turn over the football last Thursday. This is a Kansas City team that thrived on turnovers last year. They had 33 takeaways. And that's why they got away with being 20th in offense and I think 26th or 24th in total defense. They got the takeaways. They didn't need the takeaways the other day. They pushed the envelope a little more. And dare I say to Eagle fans, how many times they probably wondered or hoped Andy Reid had done that a little more during his days with the Eagles. Okay? That's not a shot or anything like that. I think that's what caught New England off guard. Okay? Now, let's think about this. Andy coached against Belichick in the Super Bowl. Okay? We know how that ended. It was kind of a sluggish fourth quarter for them, that lack of urgency. How many times did you hear it to this day? And then you even go back to Andy 2 years ago when the Chiefs played the Patriots in the playoffs in Foxborough.
Right, how they handled the last 2 minutes, exactly.
They were trailing late, and once again it was like, come on, let's go, what are you waiting for, blah, blah, blah. That wasn't the case. The Tyreek Hill play was one thing. I was completely blown coverage. But he gets behind the linebacker, and what an aggressive throw by Alex Smith. It's just something I think he got. I don't want to say, well, I'll say it. I think Bill Belichick got a little out-coached last week by Andy Reid, because I don't think he was prepared, and Andy didn't take his foot off the pedal. Okay? And I thought that was very, very impressive.
And he's also done that in the past, too.
2 weeks in a row? Can he do that 2 weeks in a row? Because I know the Eagles won't take their foot off the pedal, and I know Jim Schwartz certainly won't.
Russell, I wanted to switch over to the Steelers now, and obviously they're going to play the Vikings this week, a step up from Cleveland in Week 1. I'm sure you watched the Monday night game and was impressed by Minnesota, as the rest of us were. What do you think the big difference has been for Minnesota to improve from last year to this year? Is it the run game, offensive line combination? And what do the Steelers have to do to beat Minnesota this weekend?
This is a tough task for them because Minnesota has more firepower. Now, I'm not going to get overly excited, okay, about playing a Saints defense that has been mediocre for about 5 or 6 years.
Right.
27 out of 32 for Sam Bradford is still 27 out of 32. And it wasn't 27 out of 32 for 32 yards. Okay, it was for 346 and 3 touchdowns. They ran the ball. Thielen was a big factor. This is a test. I'll tell you why this is a test for the Steelers. The defensive line for the Vikings is very deep. Their top 3 pass rushers accounted for 28 sacks last year. They're all defensive ends. Villanueva, Marcus Gilbert, going to have their hands full this week because they got Danielle Hunt. As you know, they got Everson Griffin, but they also have Brian Robeson as almost like a nickel pass rusher, and he had 7.5 sacks last year, so they're very deep there. The one person, I just wrote a piece about this for NFL Spin Zone. To me, the X factor in this game is Kyle Rudolph. Okay? Be it Dick LeBeau, be it Keith Butler, tight ends always seems to find holes in the Steelers' zone defense. And Kyle Rudolph is a former Pro Bowler. Last year, he had 83 catches that nobody knew about. 840 yards, led the league team with 7 touchdowns. You have that threat in the backfield now with Dalvin Cook. This will be a tall order for the Steelers. I know they're playing at home and so on. And I think one of the other things I wrote about was it seems like they're just going to pace themselves the first couple of weeks when it comes to Le'Veon Bell. Okay, I will not be surprised if this is a bigger James Conner day than it is Le'Veon Bell. I think they want to save Le'Veon Bell for those touch games of 30 and 35 touches in a game for, a little way. And besides, in camp, he had no preseason. He touched the ball 13 times last week. If you were expecting him to touch 30, then you're not paying attention.
Right, exactly. That's a great point about Rudolph, the tight ends, that defensive line. Linval Joseph, too, in the middle. Is a mountain of a man that helps freeze up those ends. My other question for you, Russell, and this is more open-ended. I don't know the answer to it. Steeler fans have been wondering aloud for 2 years now, but, the Steelers on the road at Cleveland, I get it's AFC North, they're going to be close, competitive games, but when the Steelers are away from Heinz Field, they're always a substantially worse team, even worse than the average. Why do you think that is? I can't point out a reason why this team looks so much worse on the road. Can you help me out?
Yeah, I wish I could. To me, the Steelers of recent vintage are more streaky because they're more dependent on their offense. Okay, it used to be in the day when they were, and I don't mean the 70s. Okay, even though I watched the 70s. Okay, I'm going back to the late Cowher, early Tomlin, Casey Hampton, Aaron Smith, Brett Kiesel, James Harrison. You know where I'm going here as far as, okay? Those defenses were Troy Polamalu. James Harrison's Defensive Player of the Year in 2008. Polamalu's Defensive Player in 2010. You know what they brought. This is now a more offensive team. And I think when you go on the road, it becomes a different beast for your offense. I also think that's why Mike Tomlin and Todd Haley adopted the philosophy they did with Le'Veon Bell, becoming that cowbell, no pun intended, running back. And the amount of touches that he had in that 8-game span last year were unbelievable, if you really think about it, okay? And that's why when he went down in the first quarter against New England, for lack of a better word, they were kind of screwed. If that answered the question, I don't know, but that was
it did.
6 minutes.
That was a great answer. D Jock, go ahead.
Yeah, I get kind of transitioned back to the NFC East. One of the big stories coming this season was Zeke Elliott being suspended for 6 games, and now it's being taken away, and probably through the judicial system, not going to get resolved to the end of the year. So I guess your thoughts, on how this obviously switches back to the Cowboys now being the favorite in NFC East, or what's your mindset now on the impact of Zeke now potentially being here for the full season?
Well, I'm trying to think, in the history of the league, Tyler, I'm trying to think of a player who was, found guilty of something, and then we went back and forth in the courts, and then the thing was delayed for over a year, and then the person finally served the suspension. I'm trying to think the last time that might have happened. Carry the 2. Yeah, it happens too much. Okay, Fred Flintstone doesn't drag his feet like the National Football League. Okay, and here we go again with this. And to be honest with you, not to get overly editorial on it, but until the NFL adopts which they handle certain things one way and the criminal issues in a different way, and when I say the criminal issues, these type of things where there are lawyers involved and people, I think they're simply overwhelmed, which is why they look like buffoons. People say there's bias toward the Patriots and bias toward Kevin. There's bias. It's total incompetence. It happens happened over and over and over again. Back to your question. Even Ezekiel Elliott was going to be 16 games. I thought the Giants and the Cowboys would take a step back. I'm not convinced their defenses have done all that well. I actually think it's Washington and Philly that pushed the pocket in the top of the NFC East, and I still think that as well. I think they had better off seasons than Dallas and the Giants. I'm not sure what to make of the Giants. I know this. I've heard other people in our business talk about the Giants, without Odell Beckham, are a different team. He's the best player in the league, et cetera, et cetera. Look it up. You'll know what I'm talking about. End of last season, when the Giants failed to score at least 20 points in any of their 5 regular season games, including then the playoff game and then this week. And, I know El didn't play, but Odell certainly played the stretch run. This is a team that has no running game and has a left tackle that is one of the most generous human beings I've ever seen.
Yeah, did you even think that the 6-game suspension was even logical? It was kind of a random number. Again, the NFL doesn't really have a set, games for something like domestic violence right now. Did you even think that was warranted, or kind of blow out of proportion? I guess what's your thought on the game length in general?
Well, they put the policy in place a couple of years ago that anything domestic violence oriented was going to be 6 games. Okay? The problem is trying to sort out if this is the domestic violence. And the other thing that's kind of confused me, Tyler, from the get-go is he was being suspended for conduct detrimental, correct? So where do some of the other incidents come into play? The situation in New Orleans, some of the other things. Was the NFL putting this all together? Because I think fans were irritated because they're getting one version of one story, and yet there were other incidents. And I don't think, if there were other incidents, let's put it this way, if there were not other incidences, I think this goes in a totally different direction.
Yeah, I think it's a good point to make there, Russell, considering the path that it's gone in so far. But we'll continue to see how this goes as the NFL continues, as you mentioned, to drag their feet on this, and we'll see how the Cowboys deal with this too. And I would agree about as far as Dallas' defense goes, we'll see how they're able to bounce back from that. They're off to a good start there, and the NFC East is going to be very interesting. Same with the AFC North and the Steelers as well. So, Russell, thanks so much again for the time. We really appreciate it. Great stuff as always, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
You got it.
Thank you, Russell.
Enjoy the week.
Absolutely, thank you, Russell Baxter. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at BaxFootballGuru. See him on ProFootballGuru.com, NFL Spin Zone, Fansided, Sports Post Home, Blasting News, Elite Sports New York, and you can also see him on Pro Football Spot, my colleague as well, the lead writer for the Washington Redskins. So we thank Russell for that. So coming up next here on the Football Friday podcast, we're going to be getting into a little bit more of the Chiefs-Eagles game this week, as well as the Steelers home opener against the Vikings, and then we'll have next game, new game, and also Mike Waterloo will join us for a little fantasy talk this week as well. New segment on the show that we're trying to implement. We'll talk about that coming up next here on the Football Friday podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to the Football Friday podcast, Week 2 edition. Matt Catrillo, Alex Kozora, Tyler DiGiacomo here with you. Still haven't heard from Ian yet. Hopefully we'll get him in for this week. If not, again, we'll hear from him next week. Just getting off the line here with Russell Baxter. Again, make sure you follow him on Twitter at BaxFootballGuru. Guys, a lot of great stuff from Russell as always. A lot of good insight to the Eagles and Steelers, and of course the Zeke Elliott suspension. A lot of good stuff there. And what were some of your thoughts on what he had to say for both teams? Alex, let me start with you with Pittsburgh.
No, I agreed with his thoughts. I think Bryant's going to be a good play this week. You're going to have probably Xavier Rhodes shadow AB. It's going to put, like he said, either Waynes or Newman on Martavis Bryant being at home. I know Bryant had a quiet week last week, but that he's going to have his big game, his kind of welcome back party soon. So yeah, why not this week? So I like the pick.
And even and as far as Big Ben goes, of course, he talked about him, everything kind of running through him a little bit. Obviously, we all know that. Everybody just seems to, these Steelers just seem to be in sync at home. I know you asked him about why that seems to be, everybody seems to play better at home than on the road. These Steelers have been for the last several years. It was just an interesting conversation take that he had there on that notion. So, D Jock, let me go to you. Any thoughts from the Eagles or Steelers? Or I know you asked a couple Zeke questions too.
No, not really. I mean, as Alex said, I agree with what he said. He didn't say anything, earth-shattering. As I said, kind of the one that we really have no answer to is why the Steelers play the road. And I think it's just kind of how the Steelers' makeup is. They're a very emotional team. They feed off emotions. They feed off energy. They feed off, crowds, like the home crowd. So that's why kind of the road that they struggle to kind of, get up to the competition because there's really no juice behind them. But I think every team, does better at home than on the road. I think the Steelers especially, that's just their makeup and their composition is just a team that's full of emotions and you need the crowd and everything behind them. But other than that, there's nothing that was, earth-shattering or really groundbreaking. But no, yeah, Russell, a very knowledgeable guy. Really enjoy hearing his mindset. Especially, it's nice to get a fresh opinion in here with the 3-4 of us. He's kind of a non-biased guy to get in here and kind of set us straight and some stuff sometimes.
Yeah, he's always a great addition to the show, and definitely will not be the last time that we'll have him on throughout the course of the season. So, guys, let's get into our own thoughts for Eagles, Chiefs, and Vikings, Steelers. We'll start with the Eagles first, and I look at this game. I was encouraged by some things last week, as I kind of alluded to talking to Russell, but there's a lot of things that I'm still very concerned about. Of course, cornerback being number one, some decision-making with Carson Wentz being number two, even though he made some brilliant plays last week on the run that I talked about. And the running game, of course, is another thing. And I think I want to expand on this a little bit with the running game a little bit. Tyler, I'll bring you in here. And with LeGarrette Blount, of course, I was not highly encouraged from what I saw from him last week. Really, obviously not anybody. But a lot of this, I think, is on Doug Peterson, too, because I get you don't want to have the predictability, but if it's the right avenue to take to get Blount going by putting him under center constantly and getting that churning going and giving him more carries, first of all, only had 13, 14 carries last week. And I think if you're able to get him downhill and get that motion going, then I think he can be the case. Sal Palantonio, who was on 97.5 The Fanatic in Philly earlier this week, he was on the sideline during the game, and he saw, you can tell the body language on LeGarrette Blount getting frustrated, knowing I just need a couple more carries to really get going, and you can bust one out. Because even though he's been inconsistent with his productivity in his career, he's always been that type of back. If you give him that first couple of carries where he only gets maybe 1, 2, 3 yards, then he'll start busting out a few, maybe 10, 15, etc., and start wearing down defenses. And I think Doug Peterson really needs to start going to him a little bit more and a little bit committed more to the running game, because, of course, that'll help out Carson Wentz. So what are your thoughts on how Doug Peterson's handled the running game?
Well, I mean, my opinion doesn't change. I've said it since the first day that they signed Blount last week, whatever. He's just not a good fit in this offense. As Alex alluded to before, he had one good year, a couple of good years with the Patriots, was terrible for the Steelers, has been good no place else. So not sure why he'd come here to Philadelphia. And also to not play well to him. As I said before, you could tell, the Eagles' offense, likes their small, quick running backs that can work out of the backfield, that are good blockers. Blunt's not a good blocker at all. And also a good running back that can catch the ball in the backfield and be stretched that wide. Blount is none of that. So he is in no way, shape, or form good for this offense. But also his, backups of Sproles and Smallwood kind of fit this offense, but Sproles is really old. Smallwood's not that well-rounded running back yet. So, I don't know, you said you only got 14 carries last week for Sproles. I mean, that should be for Blount. But then you have 40 passes for Wentz, which you really don't want either. But you got to pass the ball because the running game wasn't working that well. So it's a whole...
It's going to affect the Eagles the whole season, and that's my other concern too. Just in terms of Carson Wentz, coming off a season where he set the record for most pass attempts, 608, and he could be heading that direction again this year, which is obviously something that you don't want to see. And then you have the Jason Peters issues. He was lingering in and out. I think it was a calf injury he suffered last week, in and out of the game in Washington. He did practice today, and so it looks like he'll play Sunday, but you never know with him anymore on the blind side. This is going to be something that's not going to go away for the Eagles, and we kind of knew that. But well, hopefully Carson Wentz can continue to keep that poise in the pocket. But as far as this week goes, I don't see how the Eagles win this game. I really don't. I think the only thing that keeps the Eagles in this is if the Chiefs come out flat. I know it kind of sounds obvious, but we've seen from Andy Reid teams in the past where you come off a big win like they are this past week against New England, and then they come home and they just have a total stinker. Now, I kind of rule that out because it's their home opener, and not a lot of teams come out in their home opener and come out flat. So I don't foresee that happening. Therefore, I don't think the Eagles have much of a chance in this game because the offensive line concerns me because of Jason Peters, and just their overall play has not been very good so far. You know, they let that Redskins pass rush, which is still very good and still, I think, an underlying part of that team. It always has been, I think. Ryan Kerrigan got to the quarterback many times. And, of course, this is a much better defensive unit that they're going to face this week. You mentioned the running game, the crowd noise. I don't see how the Eagles win this game this week. And plus, Tyreek Hill scares me to death with the secondary and the way this is right now. Even though I am encouraged by Jalen Mills, and like I said, I think he's going to have to carry the load here. Alex, let me get your thoughts here on this matchup for the Eagles. Do they have a chance to win this?
Yeah, I think you're being too negative and too cynical in your typical Catrillo self. I mean, yeah, the Chiefs are a really strong team. They're a better team than the Eagles right now. When you have Carson Wentz, when you have vertical threats on the outside, Torrey Smith, Alshon Jeffrey, and I think you have a semblance of a pass rush, I think you're going to be competitive most games. I'm not saying they're going to win, but yeah, they certainly have a chance. I don't know if Tyreek Hill is going to get the amount of yards that you think he is. So yeah, I would say there's a chance. Again, I'm still worried about that run game. Is there a consistency level there? Like Waterloo was saying earlier, it's funny when Blunt scores a receiving touchdown, not a rushing touchdown. The Chiefs are the favorites, and I'm likely to pick them once we do next game, new game. But I think you have the baseline pieces in Philadelphia to, give them a puncher's chance in any given game.
I think for the most part they do. And again, I was encouraged by a lot of things. I know that a lot of the Philadelphia fan base this week really has been more negative to what they saw this past week than positive. And I'm definitely not as that far down the road. But I think there's things to be concerned about. And I just don't like the matchups overall in this particular game. But I think overall, I think they have a good chance to beat the Giants next week and then the Chargers and so forth. I think they'll be there again for the playoffs. I think because of what I saw from Carson Wentz, and that solidified that for me last week for some of the big plays he made and the poise that he showed on both those plays. I thought it was really just tremendous. So we'll pick the game coming up in a little bit, as you mentioned, Alex, on next game, new game. But let's switch gears to the Steelers and the Vikings. Steelers home opener. Not a great showing offensively, but they're able to make plays when they need to and get things done defensively as well. And Alex, obviously, I'll start with you on this. Bell, not a whole lot of touches as we kind of expected being his first game back. I know Steelers Nation was really happy to see that, but of course, I wasn't totally surprised by that at all. And road game, as we mentioned, we thought it was going to be a close game. It was, to the very end. Browns made it tough on them. Do you see, I guess, the Steelers kind of coming out of their shell a little bit here, though they are playing a very good defense in the Vikings? How do you see this year?
Well, they're certainly going to have to. They're going to have to play a whole lot better than they did against the Browns if they want to beat, like you said, an obviously good and better Vikings team. Now, two caveats to that. Like I've said before, the Browns are a better team than people think. And anytime you have week one, which is always weird, league-wide, it was not isolated to Pittsburgh. Anytime you go on the road to play AFC North football week one, it's going to anticipate this one being a blowout at all. Obviously it wasn't. Now, was it a good game? Was it an ideal game? No, not even close. But what I thought the Steelers did well was in situational football, mostly in the red zone, going 2 for 2. Jesse James having both touchdown passes. So if you clean up some of the penalties and some of the self-inflicted wounds, which I'm sure this team will, I can't see them being penalized 13 times again,
right.
Then you're going to have a better chance. But yeah, that Minnesota team is really tough, and they're going to have to play better than the Steelers do.
Special teams, too. You got the block punt to start the game, and that kind of gave them some early momentum, and I think that'll be key in this game as well.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime you can win in special teams, that's obviously huge, and that's been an area that's been criticized, and generally speaking, fairly. I still have concerns over the kick return unit and things like that, but you get a big block punt, take advantage of an opportunity, capitalize, and obviously needed it on a day where the offense puts up 14 points.
The Temple product, Tyler Medikevich with the block there to set that up,
Well,
and recovered by Anthony Chickolo too. And so, Tyler, let me go to you now. Minnesota, this team impressed on Monday night, especially defensively. Sam Bradford, of course, lit it up. He was named NFC Offensive Player of the Week. Dalvin Cook, slow start, but then he really started turning some speed and turned in a very nice game all around and all-purpose yards and things like that. So, what kind of challenge is this going to be for the Steelers' defense?
Well, it'll be interesting. I mean, this is a great litmus test for the Vikings. I mean, was the win last week, because they were good, or they beat up on a, lesser team, or, I mean, a lot of people are saying the Vikings could be good this year. You have Dalvin Cook, who's a rookie year candidate. Bradford, I think me and you, Matt, are kind of biased by it, but all the talk coming out of Vikings training camp, the preseason, and last week about that Bradford, is going to have a good year, and he's back, and he's healthy, and it's a good system and good place. And I don't know. I mean, it's very interesting. The Viking defense is very improved. The offense, is solid. Again, Sam Bradford's a big-time game manager, not going to take any big risk, and kind of, stereotypically, dink and dunk down the field. Even though that's not what he did last week. He threw the ball pretty deep last week. I mean, I guess I give the slight edge to the Steelers just because they're at home, kind of for the reasons that we talked about. But I would expect this to be a very, very well contested game. I mean, I'm not much of a betting man, but that Vegas line of Steelers giving 7 points, that's a lot for a team to be given at home. And normally, the home team gets about 3 points, by standard. You give them 7. Vegas is thinking that it might be a blowout, but a Steelers aspect there. So if I was a bet man, I'd take the Vikings with the points. But I think game-wise will be a very good game.
I think the Steelers' front 7, I should say, I think is going to be very critical in this game to get that pressure on Sam Bradford and to slow down that run game with Dalvin Cook in there. Because, as we've seen before, you get a couple of hits on Sam Bradford, that's when you start forcing some of those turnovers. And I think you'll see Keith Butler try to dial up some of those zone blitzes and try to confuse Sam Bradford a little bit and force some of those turnovers. And I think that's going to be the difference in this game. I think the Steelers will be able to create a turnover late in this game on Sam Bradford, and I think that's going to set up the Steelers' offense. So I think we'll have an up and down game. I think you'll see more from Bell this week, just from a pure athletic standpoint and carry standpoint. I think you'll see him get more carries. I think you probably will see him go more to the 20 carry mark. Alex, correct me if I'm wrong if you think maybe not that might be the case. So I think that'll help just open things up a little bit more. I'm surprised by the Martavis Bryant comments. I think that if he's able to have a big game like that, that'll open things up for Antonio Brown, etc. But the Steelers are going to have to be able to run the football, I think, a little bit to slow down that Minnesota pass rush. But I think in the end, I like the Steelers to make a play late at home on defense on Sam Bradford, because I think it will come down to quarterback play as well, and I always give the edge to Ben Roethlisberger. So it's going to be a very competitive game, a little bit of a low-scoring game, I think, because both these defenses are very good. But I think it's the Steelers that'll make a play late defensively, and I think if you look at the quarterbacks, my edge goes to Ben Roethlisberger. So those are my quick thoughts there on the game. So when we come back here on the Football Friday podcast, we will talk to Mike Waterloo, as Alex kind of teased there earlier, our new segment here on the show for fantasy football. Anybody that listens to us, of course, we haven't really gotten that so far in the short time we've done this podcast, so we wanted to bring that in this week. So Mike Waterloo will join us next to talk some fantasy football, get you stuff for your lineups this week, and Eagles football as well. That and more coming up here on the Football Friday podcast. Welcome back to the Football Friday podcast. Matt Catrillo, Alex Kozora, Tyler DeGiacomo here with you. And we are starting now a new segment here on the Football Friday podcast. Hopefully we can make this weekly, and we are going to introduce a new fantasy football segment. We know we are definitely not experts there, as we were just kind of talking before we started recording this, but we know one guy who is, and he's a good friend of ours from back in our Clarion University days. He is Michael Waterloo. You can check him out at Roto Experts and FNTSY Sportsnet. Follow him on Twitter at Michael Waterloo for anything fantasy related. This guy is definitely one of the best out right now. Tons of good stats and information and things like that. This guy's a stat machine. So we'll bring him in right now. also an Eagles fan too, so we'll get some Eagles perspective from him as well a little bit later on. Mike, glad to finally have you here on the show.
Yeah, me too, guys. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Everything's fantastic, Mike. We were trying to get some questions from our very few listeners that we have, but unfortunately nobody has obliged. So we'll just kind of make this a little bit more general and kind of jump right into it here. And we'll start with Eagles and Steelers players first, as after week 1 to kind of see where things stand for you as far as who may be a good guy to maybe go after for week 2 here. We'll start with the Eagles.
All right, for the Eagles, man, they have a tough matchup with the Chiefs. You saw what they did to Tom Brady and the Patriots last Thursday, which my favorite stat right now, as you guys know, I'm a Mike Glennon guy. Mike Glennon currently has more touchdown passes on the season than Tom Brady does.
Yeah, have fun with that while it lasts.
So it's going to be tough sledding for them. The one good thing for the Eagles is that the Chiefs, of course, lost Eric Berry for the season. The Chiefs last year were one of the toughest teams against opposing tight ends, so I really, really think you see a lot of Zach Ertz this game. That's one guy that I'm obsessed with. He had a great start in week 1. As you know, Catrillo and Tyler, he struggled the past couple of years to get going at the beginning of the season, really came on at the end. So I think you're going to see him featured early and often for the Eagles this week. But outside of him, I'm not really trusting many of their position players. It's going to be show-me game for Alshon Jeffrey. Last week, he kind of got the Josh Norman treatment. You kind of saw third-year receiver Nelson Aguilar break out in a big way. But I'm not really trusting them. Carson Wentz, I don't feel great about starting. I have him maybe as a top 15 quarterback this week. And the running backs, LeGarrette Blount had a receiving touchdown last week. If you told me him and Jonathan Stewart were both going to have receiving touchdowns in week 1, I would have called you crazy. But here we are. So, yeah, Zach Ertz is really the only guy I'm targeting for any daily fantasy games or contests in my season-long leagues. Depending on the other options I have, I'm okay starting Alshon and Wentz if I have to, and then Zach Ertz is the only guy I really want to lock in my lineup.
Yeah, and we'll get into this when we actually talk Eagles on the field for real, but it's about time with Zach Ertz, definitely. We've been waiting for him for so long to finally start kind of emerging in this offense, and looks like, and hopefully he took step 1 into doing so there. So let's go to Pittsburgh now. Obviously, they had a little bit of a slow start offensively in Cleveland last week. They got Minnesota, who showed a very well and solid defensive game against the New Orleans Saints at home. So this will be a tough matchup here for Pittsburgh, but who do you like fantasy-wise here for Pittsburgh?
Yeah, it really will. It's a game I'm really looking forward to see if the Vikings can build off the momentum they had last week, see if Sam Bradford can survive in a shootout. A lot of fantasy people know, Alex, you're so in tune with the Steelers. You probably know, too, the infamous home road splits that Ben Roethlisberger has. So he's going to put those to test this week against a very tough Minnesota defense. But I really, really, really like Martavis Bryant this week. I don't know who's going to keep up with him. Martavis seems to show up at home. All the Steelers position players do, because that's kind of where Ben is, too. You kind of set and forget Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Big Ben at home. You're fine with all of them all the time. Martavis, though, I think he's going to have a field day, because who's going to keep up with him? Is it going to be the crypt keeper, Terrence Newman back there? Is it going to be Trey Waynes, who literally can just run fast in a straight line, but outside of that can't really do anything else? I'm really all about Martavis Bryant this week. He's what I'm looking for. And if you're kind of chasing touchdowns with Jesse James' 2 last week, don't do that. Don't fall for it. It was fluke. It's not happening. Jesse James reminds me of like Fetch from Mean Girls. Stop trying to make him a thing. It's not going to. So.
Yeah, that definitely won't happen. I wanted to ask a more broader fantasy football question. Waterloo, a lot of David Johnson owners out there, out without him until maybe Christmas, maybe longer than that. Who knows? I'm luckily not one of them. But if you were to, give someone some advice about what to do post David Johnson, what would you say? Andre Ellington, Curran Williams, someone else in the waiver wire? What's your suggestion?
Well, first say a prayer and just hope for the best. No matter who you get, you're not going to replace David Johnson's production. Don't do that. That's kind of common sense there. I personally avoided all the Cardinals backs this week on my waiver wire. I didn't have anything to do with Kerwin Williams, anything to do with Chris Johnson, Andre Ellington, or even the one guy they just signed from the Patriots, who his name is DJ Porter, maybe? Is that right?
DJ Foster.
Foster. Okay, I got half of it right. No matter what, I was avoiding all of them because Kerwin Williams has averaged over 5 yards per carry throughout his career so far, but it's been a very limited sample. As you guys know, that's kind of changed the pace. You bring him in. If you want it the full time, it's not going to happen. And I think it's going to be just too crowded. So for a David Johnson owner, I get it if you want to own Kerwin Williams just because he is kind of handcuffed there. But I was chasing Buck Allen from the Ravens to kind of fill in that Danny Woodhead role. So I'd suggest owners go after him first, and then also Tariq Cohen. We saw him kind of shine last week for the Bears. He's one of those shiny toy syndromes that, he's a new guy, straight out of college. He's going to be fun to own. Let me blow all my fab on him, number one priority. He's still the backup running back. Jordan Howard goes down there. He's not built to be that workhorse type guy, so he's really going to be a third down guy, or a third down back for them. They split a lot of time on the field together last week, so that was encouraging for Cohen. And if you looked at their targets last week, about 62% of them came to tight end. So Mike Lennon wasn't going to his outside receiver, especially when your number one there is Kendall Wright now by default. So you're going to see a lot of targets. But if you want to go cheap, I was tweeting about it. I was looking at different fab results and how much money people are spending on Kerwin Williams, Tariq Cohen. I was getting Shane Vereen left and right for $1, $2. That Giants offensive line is horrible, just like about 50% of the offensive lines in football are right now. So Eli's going to be under pressure constantly. He's going to be dumping it off a lot to Shane Vereen. We saw Odell Beckham says 6 to 8 week injury on Thursday. So that's going to be a few more weeks that you can kind of milk with Vereen. So if you're a David Johnson owner, look at Shane Vereen, look at the cheap backs off the waiver wire like Chris Thompson. And if not, if you're kind of loaded at wide receiver, or you're one of those guys who drafted a couple quarterbacks, or have a guy like Alex Smith, Sam Bradford backing up, you might just have to bite the bullet and trade for one of those bell cow running backs because it's really a commodity that you need in fantasy football.
Yeah, that's definitely a great point. And yeah, like you said, no ability to replicate David Johnson. My other question for you, Waterloo, and I'm going to make you earn your money on this one. I don't know how in tune you are to IDP leagues. I play in one of them. I don't know. Do you have any waiver wire suggestions for IDP guys? Help me out a little bit.
The best person I can go with there is Calais Campbell for the Jaguars. I'm not sure. I mean, you want to be kind of, I don't like really focusing on linemen too much because they're kind of a dime a dozen, but just seeing what he did last week, I believe he had 3.5 sacks in the first quarter or the first half against the Texans. So he's one guy I'm really going after there in IDP leagues. And the other one, I'm forgetting his first name. He is a rookie backer for the Giants. I think Goodson.
But BJ Goodson, I think is his name.
Yeah, BJ Goodson. Yeah. Watching him last week, I believe he had 18 solo tackles by himself. Mm-hmm. That's just the guy that really wowed me watching him. So those are kind of the two that I'd really suggest fantasy owners go after. I know Goodson by himself, he isn't overly owned in fantasy leagues. So him and Calais Campbell, that Jaguars defense is real.
Definitely. Trillo, anything else?
D Jock, what do you got?
Well, I talked about Tariq Cohen. I picked him up this week. Hopefully he does good. But I have a little internal struggle because I had a very bad draft. Maybe you can help me out on a week-by-week basis. My two quarterbacks are Mariota and Wentz. So I guess mainly for this week coming up, Mariota against the Jaguars and Wentz against the Chiefs. I guess who do you like this week, and then who do you like going forward out of those two quarterbacks there?
For Marcus Mariota, putting my Oregon bias aside, you saw him. He's just efficient. The guy, he's never one of the top passing offenses in the league, but if you watch the NFL Red Zone, Andrew Siciliano touts it every single week. Marcus Mariota has yet to throw an interception in the Red Zone. The guy is just so efficient. He gets it done with his legs and his arm. But D Jock, I'm sorry to tell you, you're kind of in trouble this week. I have Wentz a little higher than Mariota this week just because I'm buying in that Jaguars defense. I'm buying into their corner is Jalen Ramsey. Bouye, I believe, is the other one on the other side. And then Miles Jack looked great last week. And then Calais Campbell, like I said, I think they're going to have some fits there. I really think Eric Decker's going to be the main guy. He's going to target him and Delaney Walker. Corey Davis looked great last week. Rashard Matthews is always a safety blanket. Like, I'm kind of concerned about Marcus Mariota this week against the Jaguars, and their schedule is a little tough going forward over the next couple of weeks, too. After Jacksonville here, you have the Seahawks, and then you have the Texans. After that, it gets a lot easier with the Dolphins, Colts, and the Browns, but these next couple of weeks are going to be really tough for him. That's what a lot of fantasy owners do too quick, and they cut bait. Don't panic on Mariota. People might be kind of going to buy low on him, but just stand pat and you'll be happy with the season.
I guess kind of on the same quarterback train here. I mean, we talk about David Johnson's out until Christmas or so. You know, you got one of the best quarterbacks, Andrew Luck, could be out for a while. I mean, is that someone that you feel that's, I guess, for him, worth it to kind of pick him up for the back half of the season, A? And B, would you not take any cold skill people because Luck's not in there? Or what's your thought on that?
As far as Andrew Luck, I try to be risk averse with drafts in general. Every year we've seen it with Arian Foster. Last year we saw Jamal Charles, ACL. People always, they just have that, I'm going to outsmart the rest of the room and I'm going to hold on to this guy. And a lot of the time it doesn't work out the way they think. They just hold this guy and miss out on somebody coming off the waiver wire holding this guy because they feel like they have to. Luck is one of the top 4 fantasy quarterbacks there are. Rumor has it he's going to be back around week 5 right now. So I would listen to an argument. He's not available in any of my leagues. If he were, I would probably stash him if I had the bench room right now. Just because that offense, that team just operates through him. I honestly think, aside from the Jets, without Andrew Luck, which are the worst team in football, that's saying a lot. For the second part of your question with the skill position players, Frank Gore has always benefited from having Andrew Luck on the field. Teams are just going to put 8 blocks right now. I really think he did a good look at Marlon Mack, who's just explosive. I'm okay stashing him for later in the season. Running Gore out there just because it's the running back, I'm fine with that as a low-end RB2 flex spot. As far as the receivers, I'm dumping Dante Moncrief right now. Jack Doyle had a nice, impressive opening series with the Colts. But, you know, I'm fine for a Kobe Fleener or somebody like that, a Charles Clay as a repertoire with Tyrod Taylor there in Buffalo. The only guy I'm running out there week in, week out is T.Y. Hilton just because of his game-changing ability that he has. And you just hope and pray that Jacoby Brissett can get him the ball. We saw when he came in, he kind of took over first play from scrimmage. He just threw a 50-yard bomb down to Dante Moncrief, much better than Scott Tolzien, who is quarterback I've ever seen, not named Dan Orlovsky. So, T.Y. Hilton's really the only person I feel comfortable playing each week, but it's just you're crossing your fingers for wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 production.
Geez, I got one last question, but I have Moncrief on my roster too, so I must say a terrible draft team. But no, really interesting kind of going to defensive side here. You know, I also have the Arizona Cardinals as my defense. A team the last, 2, 3, 4, 5 years been really, really good. This year, a lot of teams are down on them. Last week, they started off amazing against the Lions. Had a pick 6 and a fumble, and after that, just, did terribly. Are the Cardinals officially not an elite defense anymore because of fantasy-wise? What's your thoughts on that?
I think they are going to be a little overvalued just because they kind of have that reputation, but I think they're still a startable option. They're a top 10 defense still. They still have the playmakers back there. You're fine riding them. I want to get married to them. Like, if they have a tough matchup, say if they face the Patriots or they face the Saints, I'm okay cutting them. I'm picking up whoever's facing the Andrew Luckless Colts or whoever's facing Hackenberg and McCown or Bryce Petty, whoever they're going to throw out this week. Julian Hauser, maybe he'll play some quarterback for the Jets.
Hey, I would love that.
Yeah, so I think the Cardinals will still be good. Patrick Peterson did a good job last week overall against Marvin Jones. Jones had that scramble touchdown that he had. He's still a lockdown corner, but I think number 2s are going to be able to do some damage against the Cardinals and slot receivers. We saw Golden Tate get his 100 yards last week, and Kenny Golladay had his nice breakout week as he was not being shadowed by Patrick Peterson. But overall, D Jock, I think you're good with him as a top 10 as long as.
All right, Mike. Well, before we let you go here, I got to get quick Eagle thoughts from you. We talked about Zach Ertz and the big game that he had to start things off. Obviously, it wasn't pretty for the Eagles. Defensively, they were able to make a lot of big plays late to pull away from that. What were your thoughts out of Week 1, and how much of a chance do you give them against Andy Reid and the Chiefs this week?
I was happy week 1 overall when Fletcher Cox scored that touchdown. I was just like nail in the coffin, loved beating Washington nameless team. That made me really happy seeing them take them down on the road. But overall, I was impressed. Carson Wentz still makes me a little nervous with some of his decision making. You see some strides from him. Very Donovan McNabb-esque last week with that scramble chuck down to Nelson Aguilar for that touchdown. It reminded me a lot of McNabb the way he played. But he's still going to make his mistakes. I think next year is going to be his really, really big breakout year as a fantasy and a real-life quarterback. After what I saw, but man, that loss of Ronald Darby is huge for them. Understating that. The good thing is it's not a season-ending injury. But yeah, was very happy with what I saw. I was hoping Wendell Small would be a little bit more involved just because I think LeGarrette Blount is just pathetic. He's horrible. And next to Eddie Lacy, he is the worst running back in football. He's just a fodder. I don't care about his 18 touchdowns last year. Do not care. I want to see Wendell Small.
Well, Mike, I know we don't agree about the Eagles a whole lot. We have had much different philosophies, but I do say I will agree with you on Carson Wentz. I think he made a lot of nice strides last week, but decision-making still worries me. So we'll see how he's able to do that. He's facing another good defense this week, a better defense in Kansas City. But as far as LeGarrette Blount goes, I wasn't encouraged at all what I saw last week, but I think some of it has to do with Doug Peterson and the play calling. And, they tried a couple of those outside zone runs from the shotgun. I think they just need to start getting under center a little bit more early in the game, start getting him involved more. He only had 14 carries, but I guess you wouldn't buy that either way, depending on how the Eagles were to shift their play calling to maybe get him going more.
If you're going to do it, you have to get under center with LeGarrette Blount. You saw in the preseason disaster with him trying to run outside. It reminded me of my boy Chip Kelly all over again with Marco Murray.
Yes, exactly.
Obviously, lower skill level than Marco Murray was, but if you're going to have him out there, utilize him the right way. I would like to see him in there. And I realize I didn't answer your last question against the Chiefs. I do think the Chiefs are going to win. Alex Smith looked really good. I think they're just going to attack that secondary. And for the love of God, don't pump the ball to Tyreek Hill, punt it out of bounds because he'll burn you.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill scares me a lot this week. I think fantasy-wise, I think the one prediction I can make that I'll be pretty accurate about is you should start him against the Eagles because I think he can get into the 150, maybe 175-yard receiving range this week. Because I think the Chiefs are going to be looking to go deep early and often to get Tyreek Hill involved. So we'll see how that rolls with the Eagles and the Chiefs on Sunday afternoon. Mike, thank you for coming on the show. Lots of great stuff. Make sure to check him out at Michael Waterloo on Twitter. And, of course, you can read his stuff at Roto Experts and at FNTSYS Sportsnet. So make sure you check him out for all the latest fantasy news and notes. Great follow on Twitter for all that stuff. Mike, hopefully we can make this a weekly thing. Thanks so much, and hopefully we'll talk to you next week and ongoing here.
Yeah, I look forward to hopping on again, guys. Thanks for having me. Thanks,
there it is, Michael Waterloo with our fantasy football knowledge here on the show. Again, a new segment we're looking to do here on the show, so hopefully we can make this a weekly thing. So coming up next, we will go to Next Game, New Game, Week 2 edition. D Jock will finally take the reins. That's coming up next here on the Football Friday podcast. Back here on the Football Friday podcast, Matt Catrillo, Alex Kozora, Tyler DiGiacomo here with you. Our thanks again to Mike Waterloo. Great stuff, fantasy football-wise, and on the Eagles as well. Make sure, again, you follow him on Twitter at Michael Waterloo. And, of course, our extended thank you as well to Russell Baxter for joining us earlier in the show. A lot of good stuff. I'm so glad we were able to have not one, because that's been kind of rare for us so far, just based on how we do things and record the show, but to have two guests really was a bonus for us. And like I said, hopefully we can make the segment with Mike Waterloo weekly, hopefully, throughout the course of the season. So, again, hopefully we'll be able to do that. And, again, if you have any questions for Mike, be sure to hit us up on Twitter at the podcast page at FF Podcast 1, and of course at Michael Waterloo as well. And we'll have that for each and every show, as well as any other general NFL questions as we tease out to you guys each and every week. So here we go, guys. Not a whole lot of time left. Time now for Next Game, New Game, Week 2 edition. Tyler DiGiacomo, finally, the maestro for the first time this year. Tyler, here we go.
Thank you, Matt. I wasn't here last week. Let me just clear my throat here. Time for Next Game, New Game. We are recording this prior to the Thursday night game. So Ian has given his pick just for Thursday night game. He's going to send the rest of his picks later in the week here. So
do we have standings from last week?
My apologies.
Yes, let's reveal that. Yes.
Matt and Alex went 10-5. Ian went 11-4. Yours truly 12-3.
How about that? Now let me just say, I am the returning champ that ran away with this last year. I'm not off to the best start in the world, but I got time. So nice start, D Jock. There we go.
Thank you, sir. All right, that's the only week you'll be ahead here. All right, next game, new game, first game, Texans at Bengals. Matt, who you got?
This game is another classic toilet bowl game based on the way these two teams played last week. I like the Texans' defense a little bit better, but Deshaun Watson in there at quarterback now this week, and for Tom Savage, I think he can develop to be a good quarterback in this league. Like I said, I think he needs more time coming on the road. Plus, he had a little bit of an injury last week too. I don't like that for him and for his first full NFL start. And so I think Cincinnati will be able to force some turnovers on him a little bit and set up their offense, which is anemic. I think Andy Dalton's going to have a rough game, too. I think it's going to be a sloppy game overall, but I think somehow the Bengals will win this thing comfortably, I think.
Alex?
They're both bad teams, but they're both bad in similar ways. Like, the offensive lines are terrible, quarterback play is shaky. I don't know. I like Deshaun Watson, though, so I think that his mobility is going to breathe some fresh air into this offense and go vertical with Hopkins. So give me the Texans.
Ian was going with the Bengals, so Alex being island by himself. I think the Texans have more important things to worry about than playing football right now, unfortunately. I think it's going to be a big distraction. So I'm going Bengals at home. Next game, new game. We already kind of touched on it, but we'll get our official picks here. Eagles at Chiefs. Alex, who you got?
Well, I know I defended the Eagles before, and so they do have a chance, but not enough of a chance. I like the Chiefs too much in basically every area, so give me the Chiefs.
All right, Matt, floor is yours. Keep it short.
Yeah, like I said, I hate to do this, Tyler, but I don't see the Eagles can win this game. I know I don't know why I keep doing this often. It dates back to the Clarion days. But anyway, give me the Chiefs, 34-17. I just think the Eagles are going to struggle all day.
I'm going to go with a very stereotypical answer. I'm going to say the Chiefs have a big hangover from last week. Don't expect them to win. They had an outstanding game from Alex Smith, Tyreek Hill. All the pieces came together. Kareem Hunt. I'm going to go the Eagles. A little shocker on the road. Eagles.
All right. Like I said, if we've seen from Andy Reid teams in the past, as I mentioned before, if they come out flat, that's the only chance the Eagles have to win this football game.
Very true, Catrillo. Next game, new game, Vikings at Steelers. Catrillo, what's your thought?
Close game, but give me Pittsburgh. I still like their offense a little bit better. Like I said, I think somebody makes a play late to win it to set up the offense for some sort of game-winning score. I think. Give me Pittsburgh at home.
Pittsburgh. Alex, what are your thoughts, buddy?
I can never have early in the week. That's my cop-out, my excuse if I'm wrong on this, because I'm going to take the Vikings.
Oh!
The Steelers are at home. That Vikings defensive line is really tough. They're a 4-3 defense. Steelers generally struggle against, even fronts more than they do odds. Cleveland last week. And I think Bradford's playing really good football right now. It's a Mike Zimmer coach team. They always give the Steelers fits when he was with Cincinnati. So, in a close one, give me the Vikings.
A big shocker there, Alex. Hopefully, the Steelers can clean up, tackle with the crown of their helmet. Moving on here. Next game.
What's your pick, D Jock?
Browns at Ravens. Alex, who you got?
As much as I've talked up, I don't know what I want to do, because the Browns really impressed me last week, even more than what I thought. And the Ravens still have more injuries. No Danny Woodhead. I know that defense is still strong. That's a tough one. I'm not sure who I want to go with. I'm going to go with, I guess, an upset pick. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns.
Wow.
I think they're a good team this year. Carl Nassib was really impressive last week. No one talked about him because Myles Garrett was out. Nassib replaced him, looked really strong. I'm going to go with the Browns.
Matty boy, you got?
Alex, lashing him out. First of all, D Jock, who was your pick between Minnesota and Pittsburgh?
I go with the Steelers.
Steelers. Okay, all right.
What did Ian go with? Pittsburgh too? Or no, he said he hadn't given a pick.
Yeah, you just gave me the first pick.
I'll see if I can tweet him out on the podcast page a little bit later on this weekend. All right, so my pick for this game, give me Baltimore. I love what their defense did to Andy Dalton last week, forcing 4 interceptions. I think they're going to make life difficult for Deshaun Kaiser. I think it's still a little bit of a low-scoring game because I like what I saw from that Cleveland defense, but and there were all too many mistakes by Kaiser. Baltimore gets the win.
All right, I'm going with the Ravens also at home. Next game, new game. The Buffalo Bills at the Carolina Panthers. It's a trill.
You know, Buffalo only won by 9 against the lowly New York Jets. I never been a fan of Tyrod Taylor. You know, their offense is anemic at best. I think Carolina has a field day, and they won this one rather comfortably at home.
Alex?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Carolina too. Again, I like the weapons they have. You know, I know Buffalo maybe was a little more impressive than people thought, but McCoy can't carry the whole team, so give me Carolina.
Mike's muted.
Alex, what city am I living in right now?
You're in Buffalo.
Thank you. Good answer. That's the team I'm picking.
Oh, boy.
Right. Next game, new game. Arizona Cardinals at the Colts. Very interesting game here. I think Alex, what we got?
Is it interesting, though? Is there any reason to believe the Colts are going to win this game?
No.
I know that there's injuries to David Johnson, but I know about a couple maybe surprising picks, but I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to go with the Cardinals.
And Matt?
Cardinals all day.
Yeah, good to have going Cardinals off. I thought maybe interesting.
No.
Maybe an interesting game. The Tennessee Titans at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Matthew, what do you think?
That is a little bit more of an interesting game. I love actually what the Jaguars are defensively. It looks like they're finally starting to put things together. Calais Campbell was a monster last week, but in the end, I think too many weapons for Tennessee, especially with what Marcus Mariota can do. Had a rushing touchdown last week to tie the game against Oakland. I like Tennessee to get the win on the road, but it'll be a close one, definitely. And that Jacksonville's defense is definitely one to reckon with, but I think Tennessee gets it done.
I'm going Tennessee, too. I know Jacksonville got the win, but it's not going to happen 2 weeks in a row, so Tennessee.
Clean sweep here, going with the Titans. Next game, new game. Do we have a sweep here? Patriots over Saints. Everybody got the Patriots?
Yes, I do. Just because you saw how bad New Orleans look. If they made Sam Bradford look like Joe Montana last week, Tom Brady's going to carve them up a new one. So I think New England wins this. I think this game could be over at halftime, actually. I really do.
Sounds good. Next game, new game. Everybody get out your quarters and flip the Bears at Buccaneers. Matt, we'll start with you.
I think this is a pretty easy pick to make. Tampa Bay at home, especially after the hurricane. The crowd's going to be juiced up. They're going to be juiced up. They're a much, much better football team than Chicago, though. They had a nice game against Atlanta at home. Give me Tampa Bay rather comfortably.
Alex?
Yeah, I'm going to go Tampa Bay as well. Some guys impressed me for Chicago. Tara Cohen, Waterloo talked about, but I got too much confidence in Winston and Mike Evans. I think the run game's going to be just good enough, so Tampa Bay.
To channel my inner Lee Corso, not so fast, my friends. I think the Bears, a little mild upset on the road, looked good last week, good start to the season. Like you said, Tampa Bay kind of dealing with the hurricane stuff, kind of out of sorts. We getting ready for a game last week. Didn't happen. I'm a little with the Bears, a little mild upset. Next game, new game, get into the afternoon games here. Miami Dolphins travel to the Los Angeles Chargers. Alex, we'll start with you. Why not?
Very clever, D Jock. Good joke. I'm going to go.
The referee called him San Diego last week, so.
Yeah, that's true. And you are an umpire, so there you go.
Hey!
I'm going to go Miami. I think color in some ways actually is a good thing for the Dolphins offense. While Tannehill's a better quarterback, I think Cutler's philosophy of driving the football down the field meshes better with Devontae Parker and Kenny Stills. Ajayi, running back, is an underrated guy. Questions about that offensive line, I get that, but I'm still going to go with the Dolphins.
Maddie, what do you think?
Despite the Chargers looking a little bit better than I thought they were going to on the road against Denver, I like Miami. I think, again, their first game back, they're itching to get back on the football field. And I agree, Alex. I'm not a Jay Cutler fan, but I think he works for this offense and Adam Gase. And I think he could have a pretty good day against that Chargers defense. So I'll take Miami on the road.
This could either be a really good week or a bad week for me. I think the Chargers get it done in front of the 200 people that show up to the game this week. I think that the future Hall of Famer, Phil Rivers, gets it done.
It really is a disgrace what they're in right now, the LA Chargers. I'm sorry. I know I've said this before.
And that's a great transition, Matt. Speaking of disgraces, the New York Jets.
There we go. I like it.
At the Oakland Raiders. Matt, we'll start with you.
Yeah, this is going to be ugly. Give me Oakland.
Alex.
Oakland as well.
And again, I swear to you, I did not drink. I did not smoke any.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
I swear to you. There's something in the air. It's Oakland. Their playoff team last year looking very good.
Are they not cleaning the air up there in Buffalo, D Jock? Is it? Are you seeing snow up there already?
I don't know what it is. I was looking at the stats and the Vegas lines, and I must be off my rocker.
Don't overthink this now, D Jock. Come on, you had a good week. You want to stay in front of me.
I think that this is the one in their 1 in 15 this year.
Okay.
I'm taking the Twins, I swear.
Don't tell me I didn't stop you.
I'll put it on record. The Jets will beat the Raiders this week at Oakland. Lock it up. Next one. The Dallas Cowgirls at the Denver Broncos. Maddie, who we got?
With Zeke Elliott back, I like Dallas actually in this game. I didn't like him at first because we didn't know what Zeke's future was going to hold for them in terms of this season. But I think Dallas being able to establish the run, will run the football, will take that crowd out of it at Sports Authority Field, slow down that pass rush with Von Miller. I think Dallas wins and escapes a very highly competitive game in Denver.
Alex?
I'm going to go Dallas as well. The Broncos' run game's kind of a weakness, and it doesn't get talked about a lot, but it's an area that doesn't look that great on paper, and obviously getting Zeke back with that great run-blocking offensive line is really huge for them. I like what Cole Beasley does on third down. He's a chain mover kind of guy. I think they get some of the other corners they've had hurt, Awuzie. I think someone else is coming back for Dallas this week, so they're getting healthier, so give me Dallas.
I'm going to take Dallas also. Also, going to give you a hot take. Broncos don't make the playoffs this year. Locking up right now.
I don't have them in my playoffs either.
Broncos not making the playoffs. It's a warm take.
It's a mild take.
Next game, a new game. Washington Redskins at the other Los Angeles team, the Rams. Alex, what do you think?
I'm going to go Washington. I think the Rams were impressive last week, but it was against the Colts. And, I think if Josh Doxson can make a couple plays for Washington, they can find a little better run game. I mean, it's hard to find any worse than what they had last week. I think, Matt, you made good points about that pass rush. Ryan Kerrigan might be one of the top 5 most underrated players in the NFL. Every year he gets between 8 and 10 sacks. No one ever talks about him. So I'm going to go Washington.
And I think because of that Washington pass rush, Alex, that's the reason why they win this game. Ryan Kerrigan, somebody in that core, is going to make a play late. Because I think Washington's offense is going to struggle again against that Rams defense. But I was very close to picking the Rams to win this game, but I just can't trust that offense. Yeah, Todd Gurley, not there for me in the running game. I still have to see a lot more from Jared Goff. So I will take the Redskins. They make a defensive play to win this football game on the road.
Taking Washington also. Next game, new game, last game of the 4:25 starts here, 4:30, whatever it is. The Niners at the Seahawks. Matthew, what are you thinking?
I will take the Seahawks in this one. At home opener. That crowd will be juiced up, ready to go. San Francisco has a lot of work to do. Give me Seattle.
Alex?
Seattle as well. I know that offensive line is as bad as it's ever been, but there's still enough around them to beat still a lowly 49ers team.
Whatever happened to those Niners? We're in the NFC Championship game, and then half their team retired.
That front office happened to them.
I guess you lost there Alden Smith, you lost Alex's boyfriend Chris Borland. Just what a fall from grace. That just terrible. Moving on to the Sunday night football. Carrie Underwood over Faith Hill.
Agreed.
No.
You'll always be on the island on that one, Alex. I'm sorry.
Because Alex does
Okay
it
with that.
every week on his Twitter right now. Green Bay at the Falcons. Alex, what are you thinking?
This is a tough one. This is definitely a close one. One of the tougher picks of the week, and I'm filibustering my way through my answer here. But still, with the way that Aaron Rodgers isn't able to step up, they have a better run game with Ty Montgomery, who was impressive last week. That's close.
I like it. Maddie?
Well, who did Alex pick Green Bay?
Yes, that's what he said. Yes.
I actually like Atlanta in this game. Opened up the stadium, that crowd will be ready to go and juiced up. I know they struggled a little bit offensively, but being on the home turf, I think Matt Ryan will find that rhythm early. I think the Falcons will be able to get the run game going to slow down that Green Bay pass rush, though I was very impressed with that. Mike Daniels was a monster last week. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in there again this week. But I still like what the Falcons have defensively and their front four, and I think they can get some pressure on Aaron Rodgers and slow down that run game that they have. So I like Atlanta in a close one. I'll say Atlanta 27-24.
I'm going to go with the Packers. I think the Packers are a little bit better, and Rodgers still good. And since Matt gave a score prediction, I'm going to give a score prediction. I'm going to say Packers 28, Falcons 3. 28-3.
Wow.
Yeah. Good joke.
On to Monday Night Football. Very terrible game as my apartment makes noises. The Lions at the G-Men. Matt, what are you thinking?
This is a tough one because the Giants, their offense looked horrible last week. I know their offensive line is not good, and Detroit has some pieces. We'll see if ODB plays this week. I'm gonna still stick with the Giants. I don't know if I think that defense is too talented. I think they're gonna make a play late to set up the offense against Matt Stafford. So I'm gonna take the Giants.
I'm going to go the Lions just because Eli Manning looks as washed up as anybody. I mean, if you had to rank Eli Manning in terms of where he fits on the top quarterbacks, is he even top 20 right now? I think it's really debatable. And Stafford, while he got off to an awful start last week, finished strong. They have the great comeback to win that game. Kenny Galladay, I think came up as another red zone threat for them. I just like the Giants' ability to move the football at all, especially assuming they're not going to have Odell Beckham Jr. again. I know that defense is good, that defense line is as good as anybody to stop the run, but truth be told, Lions don't run the football that much. It's not going to hurt significantly. So I'm going to go Detroit.
Not sure. That's a good point by Eli Manning, a little bit older, and he's obviously.
Well, I'll ask the question: where do you rank Eli Manning? Give me a.
Well, he obviously, Alex, Eli Manning's not a franchise quarterback, obviously.
Clearly.
But no, I mean, he's probably still in the middle. I mean, he's probably as of today, in the division, Wentz is better, Prescott's probably better than Manning now, and Cousins also better.
I still don't put Kirk Cousins ahead of Eli Manning. I can't do it.
Really? Oh, you're hanging on to 2000,
I can't do it.
9 and 2007.
What has Kirk Cousins proved to you? He hasn't won any big games. He'll put up nice numbers here and there, but I don't know. I can't put my money on Kirk Cousins yet. I'm sorry. I can't do it.
We're talking about right now today.
Yes, right now today.
Eli's like 37.
Yeah, but Kirk Cousins threw a lot of bad picks last week too. You're on the goal. You're on the goal line to win the game against the Eagles, and he throws that awful pick.
Yeah, but
under
Eli's
pressure.
been doing this for 3 years now. Okay, so where do you rank Eli then?
I would probably go Dak 1, Eli 2, Carson 3, and
okay, where do you rank him in the
Kirk
NFL?
Cousins 4.
Where do you rank Eli? I'm talking NFL, not me.
I put him in like the 10 to 15 range, more towards the 15.
All right, let's go through this. NFC South. Sorry, real quick. Breeze, Winston, Ryan, and Newton. Is Eli better than any of those four?
No.
I would put Ryan and Breeze behind Eli, or in front of Eli, and I put Eli in front of Cam Newton and Jameis Winston.
Wonder why that is. All right. NFC North. Who would you
How would you rank that?
I would definitely put Rodgers in front of Eli, and everybody else probably pretty much behind him. You guys suck.
We're laughing.
Yes.
Different. All right, we're not going to go through the rest because I'm not going to make it.
No,
I think you're wrong, Catrillo.
And I'm one of the ilk, and it's, I guess, kind of a positive opinion. Eli's not that good. He had 2 good runs and 2 good passes in the Super Bowl.
He still has had a lot of good regular season numbers, though.
But
I don't know about that.
If we're talking about his entire career, not recently, but his entire career.
I'm talking about where do you rank Eli Manning today? That was the question.
I still think today he's in that top 15 range, towards the 15 mark. But and to add to that, if we're talking about his entire career, he's put up a lot of really good numbers.
All right. Well, I wasn't talking about his whole career.
As I said, I think he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. I think he's a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback.
All right. Well, that's not the question that I asked, but all right, fair enough.
But to answer your question, I think he's in the top 15.
Yeah. Right. And I think you're wrong, and we're gonna wrap this thing up.
Yeah. There we go.
All right.
We already made our picks. Yeah. D Jock, did you make your pick for this Monday night game?
I picked the Giants.
You did pick the Giants. Okay. All right. So there we go. There. So this is a really good show. I definitely think finally was glad to have 2 guests on here again. Make sure you check out Russell on Twitter at Bax Football Guru. Mike is on Twitter at Michael Waterloo. And, of course, you can follow the podcast on Twitter at FF Podcast 1. Alex is on Twitter at Alex_Kazora. Tyler on Twitter at Tyler_DeGiacomo. And I'm on Twitter at MCatrillo. Make sure you like our YouTube page as well at Football Friday. All the show archives are there as well. So, again, hopefully we'll have the fantasy football segments. Keep those questions coming in for next week. Hopefully we'll get to as many as we can. And hopefully we can make that a weekly thing. So, again, thanks to Mike and Russell. For Tyler DeGiacomo and Alex Kazora, I'm Matt Catrillo. Thanks for listening to the Football Friday podcast.